suggestions in the chat box to be discussed later in the session. Our journey of transcending Thursdays started last year in 2019 and has achieved a new benchmark as we have two very special guests amongst us today. Our 10th session of Transcending Thursdays on future dynamics of architecture, professional practice, and academia is dedicated to a very burning issue that we all have been hearing and discussing about in our fraternity and even outside. Not just our own architectural education and profession, but the whole national education system is going through a radical transition through introduction of minimum standards of architectural education 2020 policy and national education policy 2020 respectively. Hence, this session is dedicated to understand and collect wisdom on the impact of these policies on our society at large through a conversation between our two esteemed guests. Our first panelist and guest, architect Habib Khan, President, Council of Architecture, graduated in architecture as a gold medalist from VNIT in 1987 and did his master's in architectural design in 1988 from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Throughout his career spanning 30 years, he has received many awards and recognitions from renowned bodies like IIA, IIID, and other public bodies. His contribution in the upliftment of our profession and academia by establishing active social system and bringing radical changes as the President of Council of Architecture has brought our field in the forefront and has allowed us to connect and thrive better. Our second panelist and guest, Professor Jaimini Mehta, practicing architect and an independent academic, studied architecture at MS University of Baroda and graduated with Professor M.B. Dave Gold Medal. He also studied at University of Pennsylvania in the studio taught by Louis Kahn in 1965. Later, he went on to work in the offices of Louis Kahn and Mitchell Giorgola Associates in Philadelphia and New York. As a practitioner and academic, he served at Transitional Institute, Troy, New York, and at CEP University in Ahmedabad, India. At present, he is Honorary Director of Center for the Study of Urbanism and Architecture based in Baroda. His academic career includes lecture delivered at various cities of the world and publishing articles in Indian as well as international journals. He also authored many books, including the first ever comprehensive book on the work and ideas of Louis Kahn. In 2018, he won the JK Architect of the Year award in the category of literary architecture. Sir, we at APID heartily welcome both of our honorable guests. And now, to take the session ahead, I would like to welcome our principal, Professor Jyoti Gill, who would be the moderator for the session. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, your mic is on mute.
Thank you, Harsh. Thank you, and I welcome both of my dignitaries guests on the panel. And for this future education, which is a very big issue, whether it is about architecture or any education system, what we are talking about, which has become a burning issue today.
I can't hear anything.
Hello? Am I audible, sir? Hello?
Hello, Habib sir. Are we audible?
I don't think he is.
Hello, Habib sir. Are we audible?
No, he's not responding since he's not. We need to talk
Call
to
him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are calling.
Meanwhile, Jamini, hello, Virendra Patel. Do you recognize me?
Yes, Virendra, you look very different. I could recognize you.
I look with the beard and all that. Anyway.
Yeah, it's been a long time, Virendra. Yes.
Good to see you.
Yeah, okay.
Hello, Habib sir, are we audible to you now? Habib sir?
I think he will also have to reboot like I did.
Nice. That is digital India.
Hello, Habib sir, are we audible to you now? Sir, your mic is on mute.
And now I can hear you all.
Yeah, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, we can hear you too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harsh, and welcome everybody on the board, and welcome the two guests. I'm having the privilege to really be a moderator of such an important event, which is basically going to talk about the future of the next generation, maybe at the level of general education NEP to what we are focusing on to the architectural education. Habib sir, I would request you to start with introduction of the new standards which we have come up with and an architectural perspective plan, also a brief introduction so that we can take the full discussion ahead further.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Good afternoon, everyone. APIED faculty, warm welcome, warm greetings from the Council of Architecture. And Jaimini Mehta, sir, good to see you again. I hope
Good.
you're all fit and fine.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Yes, great.
Are you in Delhi or at
No,
home
I'm
or Delhi?
I'm
Where
at
are you?
home. At home. I'm at home in Nagpur.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah.
So this is a very interesting phase in the career of architecture, uh, career of architecture, if you want to call it, because we are at a crossroad. We don't know where to go, which road to take, probably, and where our destination is going to be. There have been two documents, like your introductory note mentions, that the minimum standards of architecture education 2020 and the new education policy. I'm sure all of you would have gone through both of them. The MSAER 20 is nothing new. It's not a very new document. It was tabled many times earlier, in 2015, 17, then 19, and then finally it got approved in 2020. So this was pre-NEP days, and NEP was was passed after that. After, in fact, the 20 regulations were approved. Now, there are going to be a lot of changes. There are going to be a lot of fusion. There's going to be a lot of involvement of the new education policy along with the architectural education. And we are at a crossroad. Like what I'm saying, we need to introspect and find out what would be our future and where do we want to go and what would be the pace and course of architectural education in the coming years. Because the full implementation of the NEP will happen in 2030, 2040 is the tentative implementation of the entire gamut of the policy. Now, before I explain what 2020 is all about, I would like to tell you about the NEP. That I personally believe it's a very progressive-looking policy, and probably it'll do good to the education of our country at all levels, whether it is pre-primary, primary, or higher education, or whatever. Now, the only gray area which I feel which needs to be addressed by the concerned people is to how are we going to implement this? what will be the financial resources, what will be the methodology, and what would be the role of various regulatory authorities in higher education and other regulatory authorities in school education. So the implementation part of the NEP, I think, is being worked out and probably is being thought over, and some way out, I'm sure, would be found. Now, when it comes to architectural education, what will be the role of the council in the NEP? The question that people are thinking and asking and making fun of, mocking, and so many various kinds of emotions involved with that. The basic concept is that a professional standard setting body, a regulatory authority, and registering authority have to be independent, is what I feel. At least the morally and conscientiously, a professional standard setting body should not regulate, is what the basic thought process is. It's more ethical, it's more clean, it's more transparent. So if the regulatory authority is not with the council, then it may go to the higher education regulatory authority. What would be the role of the council and how council will facilitate is a thing that we can discuss. We can work it out with the concerned ministries and the government. That's the independent administrative part of the whole thing. But we need to, as academia and as professionals, we need to concentrate on what would be the quality of it, the quantifying part of it, the administrative part of it. I think the council is good enough and fit enough to look into it. And there are various scenarios. The first scenario is that the architecture is also out of the ambit like medical or law profession is. That is one option where architecture or the Council of Architecture goes out of the NEP. Now, if it goes out of the NEP, or if we press to go out of the NEP, we have to answer a question ourselves as to, in the last 40 years, since the Act and the minimum standards of regulations, what have we as a fraternity done to contribute to architectural education? Where is our education these days? What have we done? What good have we done for the education to take it to a higher level, or take it to a level where we will be producing quality architecture? And now, what is quality architecture is a debatable thing, but let us understand and agree that the quality of architecture in the built mass in our country is definitely not what it should be. And we also know, let us call spade a spade, that barring, I'm not saying a blanket statement, it's not a blanket statement, but our institutions lack quality. Our faculty and academia lack quality. I wouldn't say commitment, I wouldn't say dedication, but yes, in spite of whatever we are doing, either our pedagogical means are not right, the methodology is not right, or we need to do something else to strengthen our education and to probably, do a 360-degree volte-face where the educational methods will change so that the quality of architectural education comes in. So if the council goes out of if the architectural education goes out of the NEP, then this is one drawback, one pitfall as to what we have done earlier and what can be done by being out of the NEP. If we are in the NEP, whatever changes, whatever reforms that will happen in the education system, architectural education would also go through the same. And if that is happening for the good, then something good will happen to education, architectural education as well, is a hope that we all have. Now, the other option is, if we are within the NEP, which we are at the moment, what would be the future of architectural education, which we all in the academia and profession need to debate, and we need to brainstorm. The intellectuals of our fraternity, thinkers, need to brainstorm, and this is a golden opportunity that if we are in the NEP and we are going to have these sweeping reforms in our education system also, what should be the future of architectural education and how architectural education is to be taught, is to be understood. I don't think this is going to be a very difficult task. It only needs application of mind, because to be honest, if you see architectural education, it is anyway multidimensional, multifaceted, and a lateral development where you are teaching lots of other allied subjects as well, apart from pure architecture or pure related fields to architecture. We are teaching them history, economics, and so many other things, and communication systems, and so many literal things. Any other professional education does not teach at the moment. We also have an exit option after 3 years. We also have so many other flexibilities that we have. We have in the new regulations that you will see, you will find that these are guidelines, and then they need to be elaborated by each institution and university to their advantage that they feel, to the thought process that they subscribe to the mission and the vision statement that they have. So there's a lot of flexibility happening in the entire minimum standards of architecture regulation, which either we collectively do it or we do it individually. But we need to not get restricted by what is written in the policy. We need to interpret that policy in a positive fashion, positive manner, to our advantage. Unfortunately, to be very honest and brutally true to the situation, our institutions are struggling to meet the minimum standards. We are not talking of anything going above the minimum standards. We are struggling to just meet. If we are unable to meet, we are doing, push-ups and, whatever permutation combinations to just meet the minimum standards for education. This means the minimum standards are not right or not appropriate, or our educational system and our thought process is not right. So this needs to be looked into. This needs to be debated and introspected as to why this is happening. If our institutions are unable to meet a professional standard setting bodies or a regulatory authorities minimum standards, that means there is something wrong in either the expectation of the council is very high, or the standards that we have set as an institution are very low. So this needs to be debated and this needs to be understood. In the new education policy and the relationship, if you see, there are many points. There are options having multidisciplinary options. So either institutions will fuse, merge, and emerge into larger institutions, larger universities, standalone autonomous institutions, and so on and on. And the new policy also talks of minimum governance, minimum regulation, minimum but tight regulation. So it will basically be a self-generated and self-evaluated regulatory system. And that, I think, is the biggest drawback that will happen to architectural institutions, because I am also running institutions, and I have also seen in this last year as the president that what ways and means our institutions use to circumvent the regulations. So self-regulatory system, minimum regulation but tight regulation would mean that we are true and we are honest and we are transparent in what we're doing. Will lead to long-term ramifications where either the institute will close or self-destroy itself by this attitude. And the managements need to change the attitude. It's not I'm just telling you a fact. I'm telling you a hard fact. I'm also, like I told you, running institutions, and I am also responsible for interacting with the managements. And I have seen a lot of managements interact with their faculties. How to change their mindset, how to make them malleable to the system of architectural education is the job of us who are heading the institution, who are heading the academy at the moment. In the new policy, you will need lateral growth. You will need to involve multidisciplinary professionals. You will need to have research. You will need to have more concentrated work on the betterment for the betterment of our country, where research will be directly linked to professional. We'll have to have more professional involvement, direct professional involvement into education system, and so on and on. How managements will cope up with this is something that we need to see. We have seen how managements have very badly behaved with our faculty, with our teaching fraternity, by either not paying, although they expect that the online classes should be held, yet they don't pay, or they're cutting salaries and they're removing people. So it's like it's a very vicious circle that we need to do. And we have to understand one thing in the new format, that teaching will be a small part of the entire thing, where a teacher should not be judged by the number of hours that he or she takes in the institution. If you see the minimum standards of architectural education, the maximum number of hours dedicated is 30. Contact hours is 26 to 30. So, but all managements want us to do 40 to 50 hours of contact hours, which is absolutely brutal and absolutely idiotic of the managements to understand that this is not what a teacher is supposed to do. Teacher is supposed to do and contribute many other things, many lateral things like research, professional consultancy. A teacher is supposed to do so many other works, other meaningful work, contribution to society. What is the CSR of an academic institution? You expect a CSR out of a corporate body, but you don't expect a CSR out of an academic institution, which the managements are running like a business. So we need to have, the faculty needs to have CSR. Faculty needs to have horizontal growth, their own growth. So these are important aspects which are part of the new standards as well as the new education policy. There are, there are about 10 to 20 complaints every day from the faculty or from aggrieved people who say that their salaries have not been paid since February. Their salaries have not been paid since March. It has been reduced, half, they have been terminated. I mean, the council cannot do much in this. We issued advisories. But why I'm telling you all this is because the attitude is the mindset of people who run. We as academicians or heads or principals are pawns in the hands of the people who own the institutions of the management. So we need to understand that it is them that we need to change first, and then the whole system of education will change. So this is a point that we need to debate on as well, to imbibe the new changes that will happen in the NEP and the new regulation. The stakeholder, major stakeholder is the management personnel. So we will be reaching out to them, we'll be discussing with them as well, and we'll be trying to drill some sense into them. I'm not saying all managements are like that, but there are majority of the managements like this who needs to have a alternative thought process to be conducive to architectural education in the new format. So these are my opening remarks, and I'm open to discussion. I'm sure Jaimini sir would also to listen and interact with him. And I'm sure I'll learn a lot out of the discussions today. And I'm open to all any kinds of questions, however embarrassing or however difficult or whatever, we'll try to answer, because we are in it together, and what we are doing is it for all of us and for the future generation of our country, which is going to come. For the betterment of them, our lives are almost spent, but the newer generation and the new younger graduates who are coming, we need to improve their quality of life, quality of education, and their future. And that's why we are here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Habib sir. It was really very nicely articulated, complete brief about what new NEPs and what minimum standards of architectural education is there. It is also very well crafted and talked about how different stakeholders are going to contribute to architectural education. Jamini sir, I would like to reflect further on to what sir has said and your point of view and your experience extract out of on this.
Well, I think I should, to begin with, both thank and congratulate Habib, because this is the first time I have heard the President of the Council accepting the fact that there is a cancer in our body and that we need to do something about it, and it needs critical surgery. That's something that I have been advocating and I have been thinking about for a long time. I have written a book which, unfortunately, because of the COVID, has been stuck somewhere, and I should be able to do it. I need to. I intend to freely distribute that book to every school and every architect who wants it. A lot of these questions raised by Habib would have been answered there, but we'll wait for that. What I want to look into this is that when I read the NEP, again, I also felt that this is one thing this government has come up with which cannot be questioned or cannot really be rejected outright. It's a very, very good policy. There are some things which are different from the original draft of the Kasturi Committee, which was published last year, and now the term liberal education, liberal is eliminated, but the essence of it still remains as it is. And I think that points to a point that what is the difference between what is envisaged in the NEP and what we think of architectural education. What NEP is looking at education primarily as a refinement of the mind, which is liberal education is all about. Refinement of the mind, goes far beyond than what I call training. There's a difference between education and training. Training is something which we sort of undergo to gain an expertise on something. A carpenter is trained to be a carpenter. A cook is trained to be a cook. He cannot be a carpenter, etc., etc. If a carpenter starts cooking, his biryani would be uneatable. Anyway, so I think a training is a very specific for a particular purpose. We, and I will not mince any words, unfortunately, throughout our history, we have always thought of architectural education as training. And I can give you a very good example. I have had a personal discussion with late Pilu Modi when he was actually drafting this act in the 70s. And he was a good friend of my father and he used to visit us in Baroda on the way to his constituency in Godhra. So I was discussing that and I raised this issue that there is not enough mind given to education in this act. And he said that if we take care of the profession, profession will take care of the education. Which means that it will be still like a guild system, Guru Shishya Parampara kind of thing, which actually goes into training and not a liberal education. And by liberal education, I don't mean that you undergo courses in economics and social science, etc., but it's a much bigger refinement of the mind that needs to be taken care of. Architectural education has always been a professional training program. And I think we need to accept that and we need to see how we can make it a far better thing. And I think there are several, I'm not going to go through details, but the NEP actually opens up lots of possibilities by introducing even a high school students in the last 11th and 12th year to take up architecture as a kind of a major or minor subjects or engineering or carpentry or whatever it is, and then go into a BA in architecture program, which will not be professional license program, but still open up his mind and he can go and work in a corporate system or in a municipal corporation to improve our plans. Right now, the people who do so don't know anything about architecture and we sort of depend upon their whims. So I think the changes are there for us to start applying our mind as to how we can adopt this. Habib is right in saying that the schools right now, schools of architecture end up only satisfying the minimum standard. I have visited many schools on behalf of the council, and my observation has always been that the minimum standard of architectural education has become the maximum standard. That the schools think that so long as you reach that, you're fine. So long as you get the approval of the council for the next year or 2 years or 5 years, you're safe. And I think that is the reason behind our schools not going beyond that. Excuse me. There was a question here, is that what are the acceptability of our education globally? And I think as far as the students are concerned, global university will always accept the students because they are paying and they always want paying students to come in. This question will have to be posed differently as to, can they accept our teachers? Can our teachers go and participate in teaching program? And that is where the hollowness of our universities or our education system in architecture becomes open. Because, and I'll give you an example, there was a teacher where I was teaching once, a collaborative program which involved a teacher from us going there. It just happened that the teacher happened to be the head of the department. He nominated himself. As a result, from next semester, this whole collaborative program dropped. It didn't even go further. And I think that is the reason why I think we need to look at what is the role of the teachers. Again, Habib is right saying that it needs to be much more than spending 30, 40 hours of contact. Haven't changed. Today, students are far more aware of what's going on in the world. They look at the Google and all kinds of things. And if one of them came to you, any of the teachers, and said, please explain to me the difference between the two Guggenheim museums, one in New York and one in Bilbao, how many teachers would be able to engage in a meaningful discussion or critical analysis of any of these buildings? And that is what I'm really concerned about, that our teachers have not really either incentive or fire in the belly or the time to keep ourselves abreast with what is happening in the world and to think for themselves. Because I think that I know that many of the teachers, when I go for inspection, I ask, what are you reading right now? Anything that is substantial, anything that is meaningful. A lot of literature is coming out on architecture. And very few teachers are not reading. They say we don't have time. But that's besides the point. You have to have the fire in the belly to say, how can I improve myself? So that is a system that we need to do. And new education policy has the potentiality of guiding us towards that area. But we'll have to start thinking about how council could reorganize itself. I have always believed, and I have actually recommended to Pilu, and I have recommended to PR Mehta later on, and in this last session, I have also given my suggestion that council should have two vice presidents, one for professional activities and one for academic activities. The two sides are like the bicameral mind, left and right. We have two divisions in the mind, but they work together. Right now, we see that profession will take care of education, which means that education is given less thought of like a child who needs to be taken care of by the parent. That is profession, and that is the reason why a lot of our education programs are like training, because most of the council members come from the professionals body, and very few are representative of the educational academia. And I think all of this needs to be looked at as a whole. Proper mind has to be given to that, and there is a possibility. I think now with this new policy, there is an opportunity for us to do some soul searching, and I think, Habib, I will urge you to engage into that. Okay? You want to add anything, Habib?
No, what you're saying is very right. Actually, fortunately or unfortunately, what has happened in the council over last couple of decades is that council was concentrating more on education. For whatever reasons we don't want to get into and we don't want to discuss and debate that. Yeah. But now what we started doing is, if you would have noticed, we're doing a lot of things for the profession and trying to merge and bridge the gap between the profession and education, which has crept up for whatever reasons. But let us accept there's a gap and we want to bridge that gap as much as possible. We want to create that bridge. So we are concentrating equally on the education part and the profession part, and let's see how much we can do it, and let's see how much we can, continue.
Let me interject. And I think very few people are going to like what I'm saying or going to say. The actual Architects Act doesn't really imply that council should take over education. It is meant to register architects who can be licensed to practice and their qualification. But that could have been done by two ways. One is the way we are doing right now, and two, leave education to those who know education, that is the universities and schools and colleges, and conduct a professional qualifying examination like many other countries, USA, Europe, all can do that. And leave education to the people who know education. So
we are pressing for that. We are pressing for that now.
I think, by respect to Balla and others, but they have been encroaching on this area of education, which we should not actually. And if we have to, again, if you say that if we are going to be out of NEP and we have to deal with the education, then we'll have to think about having a group of people, like a vice president in charge of education, who actually does that. And he gathers a group of people who have uh, given their mind to education.
I'll tell you one point that now we're discussing this. We are of the thought process that there has to be a professional qualifying examination, exit exam, or whatever you would want to call it. Registration of an architect should not be primarily based on a degree that you have received. In the era of minimum regulation, in the era of monitoring, which is going to be minimal and it's going to be self-monitoring, we are saying we need to have a professional qualifying examination wherein a graduate appears after 1 year of experience or 2 years of experience, whatever modalities we work out, and then you get registered as a qualifying architect, which is an international practice almost all over the world.
Correct.
And we are facing some opposition to it, but I think we will be able to circumvent that. We'll be able to convince people why this is needed and what it will do to the profession. The biggest problem in profession these days is the onus and the authorship of design of a project that you do is not there with the person. He doesn't want to take the responsibility. In many places in metros or bigger cities, you will find there's a design architect, then there's a licensing architect, then there's a signing authority, signing architect, and so many other things where you do not want to take responsibility of what you're doing. An architect, a practicing architect, needs to take the onus of the work that he is doing. He is the author of that work. He has to take responsibility of every aspect of the project. And that will happen when we'll have a professional qualifying examination. And then you register architects on their competence and not on the degree that they have achieved. And especially when in the NEP, when you are having minimum regulation, then we are leaving it to you, saying कि आपको एक टीचर से पढ़ाना एक से पढ़ाइए, 10 से पढ़ाना 10 से पढ़ाइए, आपको नहीं पढ़ाना मत पढ़ाइए. It is your call and it is your lookout and it is the lookout of whatever minimum regulatory authority would be. That is your call. But to get registered as an architect, you need to have a certain competence, and that I think will be the turning point in our profession in our country, wherein the institutions and the colleges will themselves rise up to a certain occasion, to a certain level, when they will say, I mean, see, if your institution graduates about 100 students a year and out of them only 10 are fit enough to get registered as architects, then you will have to think twice. And some other institution, 100 out of 100, they're getting registered. That means there is some difference in the quality that you are imparting, or in your level of quality. And this is subject to that the professional qualifying examination is of a very high standard and actually honestly, transparently test the competence of the person who has come to register. So that is also a rider there that should not be misused. You may have coaching classes for professional qualifying examinations. You may have favoritism there. But these are all circumventing things that we Indians do. So we'll have to ensure that this doesn't happen, and it is a very honest and transparent, competitive exam. But let's see. I mean, there are ways and means to do that, and if there's a will, it can always be. But until that happens, neither the quality of architectural practice will improve, neither our education will improve. Is what I personally believe in.
One thing you said actually needs a little more elaboration. You said that a school may have 100 students and 10 only can qualify, or all 100 can qualify. And I don't think that should be the criteria of judging the school, for the simple reason that if education is left to the educational institution, then after graduating, a student have an option of either getting licensed to practice, or going to academia, or going to be doing something else, to be an architectural critic or something else, which means that in a given school, only 10 students might want to appear for that exam. All of them may not be in that.
I agree. I gave you an example, Jamini sir. I gave you an example wherein I said, because the mindset of us is like this, that I mean, if you want to become a practicing architect, then your college does not is not fit enough to qualify, is what people think. I'm not thinking that way. Yeah. In fact, we were also thinking once upon a time to have a qualifying examination for teachers as well, for people who want to go into academia. Okay, why should you not? When you are trying to produce architects who are going to be fit enough to practice, why should we not have a qualifying test or an examination for whether you are fit enough to teach or not?
Who will examine the teachers? Professional architects?
No.
I think that I'm going to raise a red flag here.
So, sir, I'll just give an input over here. What you're talking is right. Because somewhere when we are introducing and qualifying exam for professionals, yes, qualifying exam for academicians should also be there, and certain minimum criteria that when a person is qualified to come and become an academician should also be made as a standard requirement. At least person should have some minimum experience, and then getting into the academia should be also a kind of bar.
Listen, there is something which is very, very important you pointed out. We, in our profession, we conduct two professions simultaneously if we are in a teaching area. We are architects, which is one profession, and we are teachers, which is another profession. We are trained for one profession, we are not trained for the other profession. The question then is that most of our teachers get their training on the job. And it doesn't work out that way. Unless there is a system of mentorship amongst our schools where senior teachers mentor the juniors, etc., etc. But that is going to take a very, very long time. Until that happens, systematic teachers training program will have to be conducted, and I believe by a consortium of the universities and schools, not by the Council of Architecture, not by the professionals, because teaching is a profession by itself. It requires a very different kind of mindset. And I think we have to, if we have to do this thing, we'll have to think about a consortium of schools, a group of schools who sort of organize themselves to look after each other's programs, issues, and say, how can we make sure that our teachers are better trained?
I kind of disagree with what you're saying, sir. I kind of disagree with what you're saying. I'll try to explain why. The reason is whether we like it or not, architectural education is under the council. And how the council approaches it and what are the modalities of doing it is open. Open. We can always have a consortium of schools or universities working with the council to do what you're saying.
Yeah, I say within the council. I don't say outside. Yeah. We have a vice president of the education. He will organize that consortium.
But here lies the fundamental difference. I personally feel, I am open for discussion and debates. I personally feel that the ills of our profession, of architectural profession in our country, is because we have made a watertight compartment between teachers and practicing architects. I personally feel that the practicing there should be no gap, there should be no bridge between these two. They have to be one. When practicing architects will get involved with teaching, teachers will get involved in practice, then the quality of education will improve. So when you say that it is a very specialized profession, teaching, I absolutely agree and I respect it's a very specialized profession, but all teachers should practice and all practicing architects should teach, is what my fundamental thought process is.
1 minute.
You see, I think of myself as a practicing architect, even though I am full-time involved into academics and writing. It's just that my form of practice is different. But I am practicing architecture by exploring ideas in architecture, by conveying it to other people, by writing about it. So we have to expand the definition of what professional practice is all about. Not just about making buildings, not just about meeting the client's requirement or the budget, but to explore ideas, the boundaries of architecture will have to be expanded. Unless we do that,
precisely,
it's not going to happen.
Precisely, I agree with you. That was the reason why I said that teaching is not the only thing that a teacher has to do in the hours when I was talking of the contact hours. There's so many other responsibilities which the academia has. They are the conscious keeper of the profession. So there are so many other things which the teachers need to do apart from teaching.
After all, the future of the profession is always negotiated in the schools. And I think if the schools don't raise questions that are difficult to answer or there's never been raised before, how is the profession going to advance? We will stay as we are. If we continue to do the same thing that we're doing now. It is in the schools that new ideas are generated, boundaries are expanded. And I think that is the relationship between profession and academia, which is mutually supportive of each other, that needs to be looked at.
Can I say something?
Yes,
Yeah,
Virendra.
I've been teaching since last 1980. Okay. I've seen something has gone wrong where, because previously every college, at least I know, MS University, APID, nearly 60% teachers were professional, 40 were academician. That balance was there. And now, because of the norms, master's is minimum, PhD is minimum. And where are those professional practicing people? And that is where the whole problem lies.
So here, so the question arises that where this master's and PhD and how it needs to be mitigated and what professional practice should be encountered as is the question, right?
I feel the academicians or the academia in general have done this deliberately to professionals. Because they wanted a feel-good factor, they wanted to hold on to something. That's why they said PhD is important. That's why they said master's is important, and they have sidelined the professionals to come into academics. I mean, to be very honest and brutally honest.
No, I think you're right.
And,
That's
there
right.
was there was a
I know.
there was a time
Listen,
I remember.
a personal example, I was inspecting one of the schools in South India where they were, I think most of the teachers had PhDs. And but there were no visiting faculty there. And when I asked why there is no visiting faculty at the school, and they told me that no, they don't want to come here. So the evening I organized a meeting with the local chapter of the Architects Association, and I asked, why don't you contribute? They told me that these teachers don't want us there.
Right. Another reason is Jamini sir. Another reason is that when these practicing architects come and teach in the studios or take design or construction or any other subject that they would want them to take, they are more liked by the student because probably because of their approach or because and so the academicians feel threatened. The teacher feels threatened. My popularity is getting, or I am getting exposed. I mean, this is hard reality that happens in our institution, and we need to accept this.
Yes.
So we need to accept this.
Agreed.
Yeah. You see, the point is, when there was this kind of an acceptance of the rule that 50% of the teachers would be academician, 50 would be practicing architects coming in and visiting professors, there was a sense of understanding that professionals will bring their own professional expertise. They are not supposed to actually question, because by the time they reach a certain level, they have reached a certain comfort level about how to go about doing this thing. And that is what they're bringing. That is their role. However, to question that, to put it into a larger context, is the responsibility of the regular academic faculty. And I think that kind of a yin-yang between the two sets of faculty has never really happened in our schools.
And this was compounded by the policy of the government. In all the government-funded institutions, they said that teachers should not practice. They were banned. The practice was banned by the government institutions, and so on and on. And then why to invite visiting faculty? Why do you have to pay extra for them? What do they come in? I mean, so many. It was only government policy, and then the managements also, trying to. हमने जब teacher रखा हुआ है पढ़ाने के लिए फिर बाहर से क्यों बुलाएं किसी और को? Because we are paying the teacher. So it's a vicious circle that we all are in, which needs to be broken and needs to be really thought over and introspected. And the NEP is giving us that opportunity. It's a God-sent opportunity where we can actually do something good for our education system.
In your opening statement, you mentioned the difficulty we have with the management. And I think it's correct, very correct. But then immediately I began to ask this question, that what Pilu said to us, that profession will take care of education. Profession is not taking up care of education, it's the management that is taking care. Unless we architects gather together and say, let us start schools. Can we think about in a certain way whereby we architects
We have some good examples, Jamini sir. You know, you are aware of it. We have some good examples where this
There are some good examples. There are some
And our school is an example of it.
In fact,
But-
APID was the best one.
Yeah.
Our school is an example of it, sir. We have got two dignitaries, visionaries who
I know
started
the history of your school also quite a lot. So, but the point is that the moment this kind of alien management comes in, all kinds of different issues like profit making and all kinds of things get in, and politicians get in, and it gets sort of out of our hand. So long as it remains with us, there is a certain dialogue possible between the teachers and the architects who control it. But then the moment the management becomes something very different, I think that is something we all as a professional body will have to give some serious thought to.
So this is where, sir, just to intervene over here, I feel because we were talking about two parallel things where academia and professional needs to be bridged. We have to now really think if we are saying that this new NEP policy is going to give us an opportunity to bridge this gap. But how is also, especially because when we are talking about architecture, it is way different than any other qualification. And most of the regulation, whether you go to UGC or you go to AICT or anybody who are ultimately taking care of the academia, is very user friendly for other courses, but not for the design fraternity where studio-based pedagogy is there. So that is where the clash comes, and how NEP is going to help us is where I think so we have to really brainstorm and identify the ways and modalities over there. So
One
this
issue that I would address to Habib Khan is that I wrote to Kasturi Rangam committee after I read the first draft, and in which there was a recommendation of a larger regulatory body overarching everything. There was a question of all the professions, law, medicine, pharmacy, engineering, architecture, come under one larger regulatory. However, my question to them was that in that committee, there was not a single professional, neither a lawyer nor a doctor, engineer or architect, that was part of that committee. And therefore, I think there is a danger that architectural education would be equated with medical education or legal education, and there will be a all one shoe fits all kind of a thing. We will have to guard against that. We have to guard against any of this happening if there is a larger education or a regulatory agency established. I think council will have to take a proactive interest in that.
So we're doing that. So we're doing that.
Yeah.
We're doing that.
But you have introduced this masters and PhD.
Yes.
So the council has introduced the minimum masters and minimum PhD, and that's why colleges are, doing away with the professionals.
That is true. I think we'll have to understand the fact that
Mr. Patel is not like that.
this is desirable, not compulsory. Only thing is that maybe we need to identify if the person is with that many years of professional practice, which was earlier taken as an equivalent to doctorate, needs to be reintroduced.
no. I think it's a very different thing. Look, all research is creative act. What Einstein has done is also extremely creative. And other way, all creative activity is all research. I would call Picasso's Guernica or Mies van der Rohe's Barcelona Pavilion as much qualified to get a PhD degree or equivalent as Einstein's theory. The point is, unless we understand that in design, it's not just a problem solving, but explorations of the issues that are involved, and that could be done as a research. Design itself should become a research of what we are designing and why we are doing what we are doing. So we'll have to actually start thinking about this, that right now the PhDs are very good. All the methodologies are for social science and natural sciences that cannot be applied to design. Design is a very, very different kettle of fish here. And I think we'll have to actually forcefully put that mindset, as you said, change the mindset about it. I don't think Picasso or Mies would have gone, submitted a thesis proposal to be examined by 2 or 3, had gone through research, reading list, etc., etc. It doesn't work that way. Architecture or any art form doesn't do that.
Same thing. I mean, I'll elaborate what Mr. Virendra Patel was saying. There has to be certain guidelines and there has to be certain law. It cannot be a lawless jungle where you let loose everyone free to teach or there has to be some. While we have given equal freedom and flexibility in the 2020 regulations, wherein there is ample scope for you to involve professionals as well as visiting faculty, as well as design chairs. We are giving the cadre of a professor to a design chair. So there is enough flexibility that has been provided in the minimum regulations, wherein you can involve professionals if you have the will to do it. So that's an important aspect. And then I was saying, I mean, the irony of it is that in my institution also we have a PhD research cell, and I cannot be a PhD guide because I am not a PhD. Although there are 3 PhDs on my projects. Either one was totally wholly on my project, and 2 of them were, a part of it was a major part of it was two PhDs. But the university does not give me a PhD because I am not, so-called eligible to be a PhD guide. But that is how the mindset of the academia needs to change, and that is how we need to build bridges wherein we involve these 2 very vitally important aspects as one. So my dream is one day that there will be no teachers and there will be no practicing architects. Every architect would be either teaching or practicing. So that is an ideal dream that I have, but when or at all, whether we'll be able to achieve it. But when that happens, things will fall in place.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was really nice. And we are looking forward if something like this happens. Now, getting back to a small different agenda, which I want to discuss about, we were discussing that maybe we'll be having a cutoff examination, a qualifying examination after even passing architecture for fresh students after 1 year. As we were discussing it, this is the probable kind of thing. I just want to know the way students architects from abroad come and practice in India, but our Indian architects don't qualify to go out and practice abroad because they don't acknowledge our degree is very common challenge, which most of the people going abroad are facing. But people coming from abroad are qualifying and they are taking the projects also. Is council helping somewhere over here on these grounds simultaneously? These qualifying exam will help?
Yes, there are. It's not such a easy thing. Like it's such a. The answer is not so easy. It has multi-layered things. Our institutions need to be accredited. We need to sign the Canberra Accord so that our graduates can get employment in these countries. Our graduates do not get employment in many countries because we are not an accredited country. So we are working on that. That will take about a year to solve it. About the practice of Indian architects abroad, the biggest hurdle is the professional qualifying examination. The parameters are not equitable. We are not at parity with the international bodies or countries where we want to go. Like, for example, I cannot go and practice in any other country, for England, US, or for that matter, Dubai or any other country, nor I can get registered because my registration with the council is not valid because the parameters are not equitable to their country. So the professional qualifying examination will remove that hurdle.
So,
practicing architects from abroad coming and practicing here is a different issue. They are not allowed to practice. They need to have a partner here, and it is our fraternity. A young architect, registered architect who is 1 year experience becomes a 1% partner in their firm, and they are practicing. But this matter has been taken up some time ago with the Ministry of Commerce and Finance, and that is being looked into because the taxation goes to their the entire money goes to their account, and then taxation is a complex issue which is being looked into, and we as fraternity, an important part of our fraternity, need to introspect and find out that we should not let our own selves get exploited.
I've been running some international programs with American universities, and throughout that experience, I have sort of realized that those universities in US and Europe are very much interested in collaborating with Indian schools, not because they want to learn something about India or China or wherever. A lot of people go to South America or China. What they are interested in is this. The market in West is saturated for practicing architects. So they're looking at other markets in China or India or South America. They are actually interested in collaborating with our schools in order to expose their students to the Indian markets. And as far as I'm concerned, that much is okay, so long as also our teachers, our students also benefit by that exposure. And unless that happens, or it will not happen unless we are also aware of the level of technology that are available there that we can sort of talk about, the level of design discussion that are available there that we can talk about. I have always asked, whenever somebody wants to collaborate with here, I said, it will have to be if my teachers are involved into the same grouping, if my students are also part of that, and that is where things stop. So I think on our side also, unless we improve ourselves, we'll have to do that kind of a soul searching.
This brings
yeah.
This brings us to a very important point which Jamini sir, you are making, that we have to introspect and find out what is our quality, what is our intellectual input into academia, and what is our quality of architectural practice and the service that we give as practicing architects. Even if we have a professional qualifying examination, and let's say we are at a paritable level with any other country in the world, I still feel that we Indian architects will still fail to reach up to the level of service, technical competence, and other things that I'm sorry to say I mean it's like, so we are working on it. We have made a small step in that direction. We are making a manual of architectural services, like it will become a Bible kind of thing for all practicing architects, wherein we are having everything that concerns profession, right from contract to how to talk to a client, to what should be going there in a drawing, how to read a drawing, what should be the content of a so-and-so drawing. Everything is going to be there, just like it will become the NBC.
I'm sure there is something about the ethics of profession.
Of course, there is ethics, there is everything is there. Yeah, ethics also is there, everything is there. I mean, it's a comprehensive document.
Is going on. Yeah.
Pardon? Yeah. So we'll put it to public opinion very soon, end of November or so. But unless our quality improves, quality of architectural services and practice improves, quality of teaching improves, I can guarantee 80 to 90. I'm just throwing a figure. I mean, majority I can say of our faculty will not stand in debate with any other faculty from abroad.
Correct.
Because it is my own experience, my own personal experience. I have, as a student, as a practicing professional and a teacher, we will not stand there in terms of. And why will we not able to say? I'm not speaking any derogatory terms. I'm just trying to introspect, looking within our own selves where we are lacking. What is our associate professor, assistant? What is the role? Have you ever thought what is the role of assistant professor, associate professor, or a professor? There are different kind of contribution that these three levels need to do to academia. Have we ever thought, and are we rising up to that level? Why do you think professor has a lesser teaching load than an assistant professor? I mean, these are fundamental things which we need to think over.
Right. But I think the point is, this question of assistant professor, associate professor, professor is an American terminology. Britishers had a better, which actually makes it very clear. Lecturer, reader, professor. Lecturer is the one who lectures, which means that he reads up his subject and delivers it like a transferring knowledge from one generation to other. Reader actually goes beyond that. He reads up, or she reads up, to expand the knowledge, and then enters into a kind of a seminar kind of discussion with the students. A professor is the one who professes, which means that he takes a stand. He has an opinion of his own. He has formulated an idea of his own, which he then could contribute to. This distinction is gone because we are calling everybody professor, associate or assistant. But I think the Britishers had a better idea about that, which we must actually inculcate.
Right. It's basically, a lecturer or assistant professor assimilates information. Second level reader or associate professor converts it into knowledge, and a professor converts it into a wisdom. So,
Correct.
I mean, these things need to be understood by all of us, all of our academia, and we need to stand in debate. We need to stand eye to eye, face to face with anyone in the world and say we are equitable and we can stand, debate intellectually on whatever you do. So this is something that our institutions need to do actually and look into, which I think we can't because, like I told you, there are other factors. Management is one, salaries are other, occupations, and so many other things which are, in way. But we need to find some. Unless we are able to do this, our educational system will not change, will not improve.
So, but if I summarize what we had been discussing to a very small kind of thing, that qualifying examination, when we are thinking of at parity with world level, means backward integration. May we are looking that minimum standard of education could be, we have to literally raise bars over there also, because then only we can achieve that our students, our faculties, everybody qualify with the worldly standard. So we are getting back to again minimum standards of architectural education, and the whatever qualifying exams we are standing for professionals needs to be equally introduced for the academicians also, because we need to raise that bar also. So as you said clearly, it is a vicious cycle. Yes, it is a vicious cycle. Until we don't address, overlay all this thing in lateral thinking, we don't think we'll be able to achieve it. So maybe the way you are saying, you're coming up with a Bible and a handbook which will help us. Maybe that will be somewhere a guideline or a margdarshak in Hindi, what we say, to achieve that kind of thing is what we are looking forward to.
See, one issue I like to point here, कि हम international, let's not aim for international standards. First, let us put our house in order. First, let's put our house in order.
It is about
then automatically, I think.
It is talking about getting at parity, because if we are being, because that is what at times in professional body also आप जाओगे practice में, and एक आपके साथ competition में कोई और professional team है जिसमें एक भी English नाम आ जाता है, so automatically client thinks कि अरे नहीं ये team is better, whether they are there to deliver quality or not is important, not important. Like we are staying in a small town, if we talk about Anand or Baroda and small cities, in our own town, our architects don't get job, and the architects from metro come, because even our own developers look down at our own architects, that people from this small town don't know how to do a good job. So this is a very big
that is a ill that our country is facing.
Yeah.
Either we look up to international architects, if not to architects in Bombay or Delhi or anyone else, and then.
No, I think it has to do with self-confidence. We are actually, when I see a lot of young students, young architects, we are beginning to gain that self-confidence. We are getting out of that colonial mindset. And my generation probably will still be there, but new generation that I'm seeing some wonderful work that could be internationally at par with anything. And I think that is something that we need.
If you remember Trivandrum.
Yes, we were
If
together.
you remember Trivandrum, what fantastic work our generation is producing.
Yeah, that's right. We both were there, witness to that. So I think this gives me a confidence that we should not really look at the fact that we are not getting jobs from here. So do whatever you are doing, apply your mind as much as you can, as confidently as you can, and somebody will notice it. There's no question about it. There are enough venues, even avenues, by which your work can be recognized if it is really sincerely done properly. And I think that is something that we should be confident about. Otherwise, look, I taught in American universities for 10 years, a little more than that. And I recognize that unless you have a degree in American or European universities, you probably will not be able to understand what is going on there and partake and be part of that academic community. Anybody just with a bachelor's degree or just Indian degree, even master's degree, will not be able to qualify that, because the whole system is different. It's much more open, much more liberal freedom given to students to explore. And I think those kind of things which make it difficult for our teachers or our architects to collaborate with or to work and go out and do some work there, in other countries. I think we need some self-confidence. We need to think that there is something about us also, that we need to do it confidently.
That is where again we come back to our education system. It starts from home, and that is where we come back to the college and the
Correct.
academia.
It will take time, and as I said, NEP has asked us or given us 20 years to put our house in order. Correct?
And
Habib?
also,
Right. 20 years.
Yeah.
thing is, I mean, whether you are good architect or bad, doesn't matter until unless economy is right.
Well, that's out of your hand.
That's a different.
It's a different,
That's a different.
that's a different layer. Yeah. One place where architects can really contribute is that if they understand the economy of a client and then deliver within that range, obviously client will not reject the whole proposal. So maybe even that part of the ball game should be taught within the college premise. Ultimately, at the end of the day, economy is also equally important role player, rather very strongly play, because somewhere these things are happening. Sir, there are few questions our students are trying to get into and they want to understand. One is that Supreme Court decision of practicing architect is what they want to have an insightful thought from you.
That's Habib's area.
This is something, you would have heard of a termite, eating away a tree from inside, and one day suddenly the tree falls. So we are all termites eating our own profession.
This is student.
No one else has talked about it more than the architects. I mean, the students are talking because we have not axe has not fallen our feet, but we have gone and stamped our feet on the axe. Why do we need to talk about it? I mean, let's look at and let's put it in proper perspective. 1972, the act was made, and it is in 2020 that it is interpreted by the court, by the Supreme Court, let's say. Nothing has changed in the act. Supreme Court has only interpreted, according to their wisdom, what is written in the act. A plain reading of the lines in the act, they have interpreted. Since 1972, our profession has grown leaps and bounds. Number of architects have, multiplied by tens of thousands. Our institutions, who were not even 30 at that time in the 80s, have now grown to more than 450. Our architects, who were a handful, not even 1,000, now we are 1 lakh plus. And all of us are working, all of us are surviving, all of us are, doing pretty well, struggling. Some are struggling, some are establishing themselves. Our profession has grown. I remember when I started my practice 35 years ago, there was no difference between an architect and a mason in a small town like Nagpur or surrounding areas, or a carpenter and an interior designer. But now, even if to design a small bedroom, interior designer and architect is asked for, or similarly for houses. The awareness in the society of our profession has increased substantially and phenomenally in spite of what is written in the act. Now, let us understand one thing. Every citizen, first of all, an act, Architects Act or any other act by the government is made to protect against the ill practices of architects, and it's for the common people, not for the architects. And we assume that it is for the architects. But that's a different matter of debate and discussion. But if I am an architect, if I am a client and I want to make my house, no one stops me from making my own house. No one stops me from making my house from my sabzi wala or a bhaji wala. Who is there to stop? No one is there to stop me. It is the competence of the architect or the professional who actually tells the society that I am indispensable. I am indispensable to you as a professional. And that, unfortunately, we are not as successful as we should have been.
Yes.
And let us also understand that architecture is a collaborative profession. It cannot stand independently. It cannot function independently. It's a collaborative profession. We need civil engineers. We need structural engineers. We need MEP. We need so many other consultants to work with us hand in hand. There was a time 30, 40 years ago when architect used to do everything, but now services are becoming complex, complicated, and we need collaborative inputs. So it is up to us in the fraternity it is up to us in the fraternity to understand and make ourselves excel and make ourselves indispensable to the society. Architects look after the intangible health of the society, of its citizens, where you by your designs you can alter or affect the quality of life of people who are using a building. While doctors look after the tangible part of the society, where it is very seen that they are बीमार आदमी को ठीक कर रहे हैं. It's a tangible aspect, but we look after the intangible aspect of the society, health of the society, quality of life of the society, and this, it is our responsibility to make them aware of the importance of the architects. And when that will happen, all these debates of the Architects Act, Supreme Court judgment will be irrelevant, which to me at the moment is also. But we are worried that engineers will come and take away our jobs, or this fellow will do it. Why do we need an architect? Why do we need to get registered? And so on and on. This is showing our lack of self-confidence in our own selves and in our own profession. We need to rise from these petty things. We need to do what we are doing. We need to be sure and excel in what we're doing. And then when your society, when your citizens will know that even if I have to design a security house near a gate or whatever, or a dog house, we need an architect to design. No one else can do it. It is up to us. Not someone will not come and deliver. Architectural fraternity and profession waits for a prophet to come and deliver. That is our unfortunate part. We have to deliver our own selves. We have to be our own prophets. And when that happens, this debate will be of no sense and no use. But coming to we have filed a review petition. It is being reviewed at the moment, and I am sure wisdom from our side, whatever we have told the honorable judges, that they will accept our opinion and it will be put to hearing again. So we are hoping against hope, because it's a Supreme Court judgment, and let's see that it will be accepted. And if it is accepted, we'll put our point of view across to the honorable judges again. And I think it should be taken up favorably, is what I feel. But the problem with our fraternity is that we need to stay united. We pull our own legs. We wash our dirty linen in public in front of everyone, and everyone else takes advantage and starts laughing at us. मैं वो चिराग हूँ जो आंधियों में रोशन था, खुद अपने घर की हवा ने बुझा दिया है मुझे. Is what our profession is all about. खुद अपने घर की हवा ने बुझाया मुझे. I mean, we are the ones who are saying, कि ये ऐसा हो गया, हमारे से ले लिया. अरे ले लिया तो आप दूसरों को अपॉर्चुनिटी दे रहे हो करने के लिए. It's something which beats me. So anyway, it's a different matter of debate and discussion, not probably part of this forum, but
yes. Yeah. Sir, another question which is coming up from the student is that NEP is proposing to come up with 100 foreign universities to come up in India and have open the universities. What will be the kind of imbalance that will be generated after that is what they're asking.
Well, again, it reflects our insecurity. But the same point is, can you just think about if 100 universities come here, then our schools, you, madam, and everybody else, everybody else, will have to say, how can we be at par with them?
True.
Can we not? Instead of worrying about it, we should take that as an opportunity. We should be excited about that. Why worry about it?
See, absolutely. We have to be worried about what we are giving. If I am taking a particular, say, let's say X amount of fee from a student, a foreign university comes, delivers better options and give better education with the same amount of fee. Why will students come to me? So let us improve our own house first. Let's improve our own house. And we have this collective mentality of looking towards the West, or a Gora figure, or whatever. That is our obsession. That's our obsession. वो ना वो गाना एक I always quote, वो दिल्ली 6 का एक गाना है. What is that? गेंदा फूल वाला एक गाना है. I forgot. बुशर्ट पहने खाई के बीड़ा पान, पूरे रायपुर में अलग है सैया जी की शान. It is our mindset. Bushert pehne, which is very Western, which is the skin, which has become architecture these days. But khai ke bida pan, which is so Indian, the intrinsic quality of pan is very Indian, which is the soul. But आप पान खा रहे हो पर बुशर्ट पहनने के बाद में ही रायपुर जैसे छोटे शहर में भी सैया जी की शान है. And that is our mindset we need to change. We need to introspect कि हमको क्या करना है, how to excel, how to grow from within and improve the quality. We have to think about and not look at anyone else as a threat or anyone else as why will they? I mean, this is the same attitude why Mughals came into India, why invaders came into our country. why Britishers came into our country. This exactly is the same mindset. 70, 80 years after independence, we are having the same mindset.
Correct.
We need to believe in our own selves.
But-
Sorry, Jamini sir, I got a little carried away, but
No, I
this is
think
the
you are
reality.
Right, it is
If you
absolutely,
hadn't done it, I would have done it.
it's absolutely right, because that is what this kind of insecurity questions come just because of this reason, because the education system, what we are basically adapting to, has given this kind of insecurities to our students right from schooling. It is right from schooling only that we think, like many of us students coming from a vernacular background, we are not very fluent in English. They think that, oh, I cannot be a good presenter because I'm not very fluent in English. So they ask, madam, मैं jury हिंदी या गुजराती में दे सकता हूँ? So this is what we have associated कि English means you
बिल्कुल
are.
दीदी जी, why not?
हाँ. So this is where एक हमारे दिमाग में mindset आ चुका है कि western कपड़े पहने इंग्लिश बोला मतलब ये बंदे का intelligent हो गया. That has become a wrong equation. Right?
It is not just the students who are actually very young and probably don't know, but even the teachers. Teachers will have to actually rise about that. And most of our teachers don't have that confidence, and therefore they cannot really inculcate that confidence in the students.
Right.
So it is
Absolutely.
language
And this is where the
simple.
marker is.
Our
This is where the
language
marker
is
is, madam.
drawing.
This is
Our
where the
language
marker
is
is.
drawing. Why do you need English or Hindi?
Language is just a vehicle to communicate.
Our language is a drawing,
Yes.
visual. Why do we need English and Hindi? I've never, I mean, throughout this my 30 years, I've never questioned that.
ये चलता फिरता प्रूफ है
We
आप
have
लोगों के
taken
सामने
enough
में.
time.
चलता फिरता प्रूफ है आपके सामने में when we are saying कि when teachers as well as students are on shaky grounds, that something needs to be done about this whole thing.
Yeah.
So there is another question from one of the audiences that in the current scenario, when we are having online education system going on, how is it going to be with the pedagogy of architecture, and what are the glitches what we are facing? So how to mitigate that gap, because teaching online with the studio where we need contact hours, we need on-field experiences, our students are lacking. So how to mitigate that the gap, and how are the statistical steps we are going to take is what they want to have an input onto, especially our field work.
Listen, COVID is not going to be permanent. This is not going to be a permanent system. It is going to go away. There is an earthquake, and we have to manage until things are cleared up. So this is a question temporarily of managing the system, making the best of this, and learning something so that in case we can use that thing to mitigate future requirement. For example, you're talking about Anand or so, and maybe good teachers are not coming to your place. This allows you, or this trains you to connect with teachers in Madras or Bombay or in Los Angeles to employ or to get their expertise in your pedagogy. So I think the point is that right now we are facing a problem, but that problem is not going to be a permanent thing. It allows you to say that there are alternative ways of conducting education, which this condition has forced us to acknowledge. Take care of that. Take the opportunity and prepare. Of course, you need personal presence, personal contact with the teachers. Students need to get the experience of being on the campus. That life cannot be duplicated on computer. So that, but also Ray, that this is not going to be permanent. This has to end. And I think we should be looking forward to that, looking forward to the fact that this has given us a way to maybe future solutions to some of the issues that we are raising.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, more pandemics and more severe pandemics have come into the human history, and they have passed, and the human race is very resilient. They have sprung back into action, and we have gone ahead with mutilating our environment, killing our fellow species, and raping our earth like we were doing. And we will do that again after the pandemic is over. We will kill our own selves. We will kill our own earth, unless we introspect and find out what the new method is, what the new way is. Similarly, in architecture, Similarly, in architecture, like sir is saying, we need to have a positive attitude in everything that comes across. You need to find out positives. You need to fish positives out from all the negatives, and then start, living with it. Because if this is a golden opportunity, honestly, if you would ask me to come to your college, I would have really thought twice, and probably it would have taken 5 or 6 months to have this discussion. And similarly, I mean, you are now, the entire world is your stage. You can invite anyone for interaction, debates, discussions, lectures, presentations. This is a positive aspect. And one more aspect which is very important is, if architectural education is so different, and we feel, of course, the physical interaction in the studios, site visits, everything cannot be duplicated, replicated. But why can not an architect rise up to the occasion and write a software for effective interaction on this platform, which is so specific to architecture? Why can we not, architects need to look at alternate professions, horizontal distribution of varying specializations. IT is one, software is one, UI, UX, user interface, human-computer interaction, politics, so many things which an architect can do. And this is the time that we should do, and we should think about it and expand our. Why can we not go and think about the rural areas, empowerment of the rural economy, agricultural sector? Why should architects not go there? 70% of our country still lives in the villages, and architects have nil contribution there. This is the time where we should introspect, think, and look at what our future should be. So take it as an opportunity, and this will pass. That's not a this will pass. It's just a traffic light that we have stopped, and the traffic light has malfunctioned, so we stopped there for a little more time than expected.
So here we can say that we have got an opportunity where we need more number of elective subjects which we can introduce in our education system, because it will help us to achieve the holistic approach where we were having a big gap. Because now this and second debate where few of the professionals are discussing about can architecture get into the distance learning, which right now it doesn't qualify. So that is another parallel debate going on among the education, like academicians, that will architecture qualify that or not, because it needs contact hours for sure.
Not only architecture, but no education can be distant. If you want to be a holistic and a quality education, no education can be.
There is a difference between, in our Sanskrit, there are very good expression. There is Akshara Gnana and there is Anubhava Gnana. Akshara Gnana is literacy and things that you teach in your lecture rooms and all. There is also Anubhava, the experience of the campus, experience of being with each other, falling in love under the tree in the campus. All these things are part of the learning process of growing up. And that is where campuses, schools, colleges have to be a community. And that community cannot be duplicated in distance. You need physical presence. You need to look into each other's eyes. And so I think it's not a question of one elective or the other. That's mechanical. By putting one elective on computer training or distance learning, you're not going to do. You're looking for problem solving. No, it's a question of attitude. It's a question of mindset. How do you actually interact with people? Of course, I have conducted online jury internationally with Ahmedabad, with Seattle, and with Cairo at the different time zones. But once in a while, it's fine. It's wonderful, exciting. And that gives you an advantage of getting people on your platform, which otherwise would not be possible. But look at that as a possibility that you can undertake in future, rather than being sort of confined to this minimum standard of architectural education. Sorry about that, but it should not become a maximum. You have to go beyond that.
We have to go beyond that. Yes. So here we are basically coming up with the students are done with the questions. One of our trustee Kavita ma'am is also here, and she wants to ask you questions. So I'll ask her to give a question. Kavita ma'am, please. Ma'am, you're mute. Please unmute yourself. Ma'am, you're unmute. Please, Kandar, please unmute her.
This is so easy, this platform कोई बड़बड़ कर रहा है तो उसका mic off कर दे host. Otherwise, in reality, you can't. You can't. Gemini sir is going on and you mute his mic. That's it. So you lost your voice. You lost your voice.
Kavita madam, Kavita madam, you have to unmute your mic manually because you are not in panel team. That's why. There is a one button which is reflecting on your screen, ma'am.
हबीब सर, इसमें तो हम गुजरात लेवल पे क्वेश्चन गुजरात के प्रैक्टिसिंग आर्किटेक्ट पूछना चाहेंगे, जो काउंसिल ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर के लाइसेंस के बावजूद हमारे गुजरात के पीडब्ल्यूडीज आर सेइंग दैट यू हैव टू रजिस्टर इनटू एवरी लोकल बॉडी if you want to practice. Yeah, 5,000 rupees.
Kavita madam is there.
If you want to practice in different districts in
वो
Gujarat.
अलग है. See, I mean, उसमें कैसा है कि there is, I mean, once you are registered with the council, you need not register with anyone else. You need to only have your name on the register. You don't have to pay any fees. You don't
No,
have to
they
pay
are
any
asking
exams.
us to pay 5,000.
आप वो लिख दीजिए. We will have it done. We will have it done. That's against law. That we will send a letter. But now we are formulating a professional committee of every state.
Okay.
With about 5 people, they will address it. I think because of this NATA and other things, it got delayed. But after this, it will be rolled out. So that issue will specifically उसके लिए committee बन रही है. गुजरात में भी 5 लोग हैं. हर state में 5 लोग हैं. And we will have that.
Great. Thank you, sir. Yes, Kavita ma'am, please.
Yes. Good afternoon, Habib sir and Jamini sir. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk to you. Habib sir, firstly, I'm from the management side and I'm not an architect. So I'm going to ask a non-architect question to you. But yes.
So I mean, my bar was not directed at you. I was talking of general. You know.
No worries, sir. We are open to everything. But I appreciate that, the president of COA is being so proactive and open to ideas and suggestions. This is the first time ever in my 17 years I've been able to connect to someone like this. So it's a great opportunity. Thank you for giving it to us. Sir, my question was that, so besides Council of Architecture, we also have to deal with fee regulatory committee, the admission committee, on, of course, the state fee regulatory committee, that we are monitored by them and all. Now, the minimum standards is laid down by the council for teaching. The other side is the fee regulatory. The people who come from the fee regulatory committee to inspect are engineers and all those things. So they again do not understand architecture education and all. Is there some way where council can tie up hands with all the state regulatory committees such like these, where it's an easy transition? They understand what is the need and how to facilitate it, and how the fee should be accordingly regulated by them. Is there a possibility of a dialogue of that COA can have with the state government?
See,
where
running a college, opening a college is not a cakewalk. You have to, in these committees, you are wedded to these committees. But in the new regulation that have come in 2020 regulations, if you will see in the last few clauses, you will find that the fee regulation is also with the council. So from 1st November onwards, fee regulatory authority is also the council. So one committee less. But you can't circumvent the university committee, the local inspection committee, which the university will give an approval and so on. So you can't circumvent that. Or you can't circumvent the admission counseling authority and so on and on, because that's a part that you have to be. But as per the Supreme Court judgment, last year's November's Supreme Court judgment, Council of Architecture is the sole regulatory authority for all architectural education.
Also, I might add one more. We are living in a society, unfortunately, which is more or less controlled by the bureaucracy, generally. And for bureaucracy, uniformity is sacrosanct. They don't want different rules for different things happening, and therefore they consider engineering education or humanities education or architecture or pharmacy education having equal kind of rules and regulation. They do not realize that each of these fields have a different requirement, different standards, different demands, and therefore they have to be treated differently. And unless that happens at a higher level, at a state level or university level, and I think that could only be when we sort of join together and make a really good case about it.
Kavita madam, what has happened is this fee regulatory authority business is another vicious circle that we all need to break actually. While understanding that the fee needs to be regulated or controlled, and it cannot go uncontrolled like it is going in certain private universities. The issue is that you want us to give good education. You want to give good facility, infrastructure, good salary, 7th pay commission to the faculty, 6th pay commission to the faculty, full DA and everything. And yet you want to control the fees, you know. So how does a management run an institute? How to successfully run an institute? Is a question that has been bothering us also, and we're trying to address them. But in Appendix D of the MSAE Ar 2020, Appendix D, Clause 4, you will find that the fee regulation is with the council now. So hopefully we'll have a more sympathetic view, and in only one inspection, all these will be taken care of.
I hope so. There's something fruitful comes out, because we did have a consortium of architecture colleges of Gujarat, where we were discussing about all the problems that as a management and otherwise, what we face as architecture colleges to run the college here in Gujarat. But nothing fruitful came out of it, because then it needs an identity, everything. So we thought it would be better if we go to COA and they look into it. It would make it, it would have more weightage to the matter than what we as a consortium.
It would have been better, madam, had you had a consortium where you would have discussed how to improve architectural education rather than discussing problems taken care of. Let us discuss. And when you,
that was also part of it. That was the first part. That was the main reason why we got together. This was one of the. I said, I was talking on a non-architecture.
I only hope that you are more sympathetic to architectural education.
Sure, sir.
Give your staff and faculty the freedom that they would want to improve the quality of education in your institute.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Definitely, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. We have got Mr. Shishir Raval. He's a ex-HOD of MS University, and he has got a question over here. Respected panelists, what is one major thing or change you would suggest to improve BArch education, take it to more desirable level or direction in India? This is question by Professor Shishir Raval. He is an ex-HOD from MS University. So I would like both of you to take up this question. As such, quite a lot we have discussed on this, but on a special request.
Shishir is asking what is the one thing that has to be done to change. I think it's very ambitious to put only one switch. I think that is not, there are a lot of things that needs to be changed. And you cannot really say that there is one mantra by which it can, because the thing has been so complicated over the period of time. We have actually an education system that was brought here in 1913 by the Britishers, and we have not really changed on that. And a lot of things have been added onto it, but it's a little patchwork kind of things all throughout. It's a gift we received from the Britishers on a box, and that box has not yet been opened, or we are not thinking out of the box.
Yes.
So I think, Shishir, for you to expect that we will have one mantra, which is actually quite unrealistic.
Absolutely, I absolutely. There's nothing. It's not even one switch. We need a big transformer to root the issues that our education system is facing. And but the only mantra, whether it is 1 or 100 or thousands, is that you should love what you're doing and you should be committed to what you're doing. And when you love what you're doing, everything else will fall in place. But there is no one solution. There is no one. I think it's not even a centipede or a millipede. The problems are so multifarious. I'm not being negative, but I'm only being saying that there are issues that each one of us need to address. And let us not wait for the council to come and help, or any other authority to come and help, or XYZ to help. Let us start helping ourselves. Let us start contributing positively to the change, and gradually it will happen. But there is no mantra, honestly, there is no one mantra.
There is one mantra I will suggest. There's one. And it was said by a wonderful lady in the 30s. She said, Eleanor Roosevelt, she said, don't complain about darkness, light a candle. So Shishir, if you have something worthwhile to cooperate, to contribute, do it. That will be your candle and it will add to a little bit of light, but don't expect others to be the same thing. Okay. But, so I think each one of us will have to contribute something.
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes,
the only mantra I will.
yes, sir.
Light a
sir,
candle.
Yeah. So, sir, one thing is that you were saying that every state will be having a panel of 4 to 5 architects under COA who will be taking care of decentralized issue at local level. Am I right? So, will they be taking care of only professional issues or professional versus academia both? Is
No,
one.
only professional issues. We don't want to dilute it. I mean, I'll tell you the reason. There's a professional subcommittee already made there, and we are saying every council representative from the local states would be heading that committee with 5 people working together. Let's say we identify strong architectural centers in every state. One person from there, IIA and academics, we will having a mixture of all that, and they will be addressing local professional issues only. For academic issues, we are making an independent body that is through the TRC. So that is already a lot of work is underway, and you will gradually it will unfold. But the problem faced by the academia are either twofold. One is either their salaries are cut or deducted, or they're not getting paid sixth pay, or they are being asked to overwork and things like that. Or the other is that the quality of education. So these two issues are independent, which the TRC is looking at. So that is already in place. That is already a lot of work has been done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I hope there is no other questions on the board. Any of you? I can allow just 1 or 2 students. Otherwise, I'll invite our design chair. Any questions from any students? Tanmay?
Hello.
Hello. Yes, Tanmay.
Yeah. Actually, being a student, I must not say what I'm going to say. But since this panel was open for students and teachers, so as we can see over a decade, there are many n number of colleges have been opened. Architectural colleges have been opened, and this have led to a somewhere what I found that somewhere a deficiency in amount of teachers. So what is happening that lots of inappropriate professionals or individuals are indulged in it. And also one question was raised here by Viren sir that at over his time there was a ratio between professionals and academicians. So because of the lots of requirements like PhD, masters, and all, there have been decreased in such good amounts of professors. So can there be a separate teaching program for a teacher? As we say that for a student, before learning architecture, he must learn how to learn architecture. So somewhere this can be interpreted towards teacher that before teaching, a teacher must be taught how to teach. So can this lead to a better education system for architecture?
Yeah, I mean, see, as a student, you asked very raised intelligent points. Number one is about the teachers. We were discussing that we should also have a qualifying examination for teachers. And until we have that, if you see the new regulation, minimum standards of regulation 2020, there's a mandatory component of 3 months of training that a teacher has to undergo before he or she joins the institution. So we'll try to make that very interesting and very powerful, wherein comprehensive information is imparted to be an aspiring teacher. So that's one aspect that we are covering. And the first aspect that we talked of, if you go to the council website, you will come across a perspective plan, or some of your faculty can share it, in which we have addressed. We realize the declining of architectural education. The perspective plan is a long-term plan where we are going to have it in 4 parts. The first part is the quantitative aspect, the second part is the qualitative aspect, which we are working on at the moment, and the third part would be the NEP, and fourth part would be the final conclusion, the way ahead. So perspective plan has been criticized by some sections without knowing that without reading that is -1, it's part 1. So we have only addressed the quantitative aspect at the moment. We realize that the number of mushrooming of colleges, for whatever reasons, we don't want to go into those reasons, but the situation is that there are too many colleges, the lack of faculty, lack of good faculty, lack of practicing architects, the region where it is coming, and so on and on. So we have addressed that issue, and we are also addressing the issue of non-performing, so-called non-performing institutes. We are also trying to work out a framework in which we are able to address these problems that are being faced by these institutes, whether it will be a closure, merger, or whatever. And we are also looking at the qualitative aspect of these institutes. If they are very good institute, but they are unable to fulfill their admissions and financially be viable, we'll see what is to be done. That's the framework that we are making at the moment. But we have addressed that problem through the prospective plan, which is being implemented for the next academic year. And that takes care holistically all the aspects that you probably can think of, or what the committee can think of, and what the council debated, and that we are implementing. And I'm sure that will address this issue of availability of faculty, quality, infrastructure, financial aspects of running a institute, and so on and on. So both the issues are actually addressed.
So another thing I would like to add, that Jaimini sir very rightly said that if we are going for an examination for teachers, so who will examine them? Professionals. So what I would suggest, being a student, I'll be honest, that clearing an exam by dedicating 1 month, or maybe let's say 15 days, or 3 months, it would be easy to crack that exam. So rather taking exam, I would suggest that if there could be a proper education program, or else if I talk about myself, I want to be somewhere I admire my teachers most. So somewhere eventually I have developed a feeling of being a teacher. So can there be a subject in 5 year, or maybe in masters, that or a subject that if a student want to be academician, so there can be a subject, or there can be a program for this?
There is a postgraduate. There is a post-graduation in architectural education in a couple of institutes. There is an architectural education post-graduation, and who will judge is a matter of administration. Not necessarily if it's an exam by teachers, it can be a consortium of intellectuals, academicians who will be judging them. Not necessarily professionals will judge. It's an administrative implementation of what happens, and it can always be worked out. You cannot, if you think that architects will be judged by doctors, or doctors would be judged by philosophers, it's not done. So if teachers are appearing for exam, they will be of course judged by intellectual teachers and a consortium of group of people. Similarly for professionals. So it's a implementation part which I think can be looked into, and should be looked into, and would be looked into. So that's
when I said who is going to teach us, that was a rhetorical expression. I didn't really mean that somebody is going to take an examination and give marks and etc. etc. The point is that yes, you raised a question as to how do you determine whether a person is capable of teaching or not teaching. Right now, what happens is that we expect that if somebody has a degree, maybe a master's degree or somebody, that he can teach. Teaching is a profession which also, like any other profession, requires a certain aptitude. And that aptitude, I think I tried when I was head of the school at Goa, that even at an undergraduate level, the final year students work as teaching assistants, helping senior teachers do some work with them and prepare programs, prepare presentations, etc., etc. In the process, seeing them whether they have the necessary aptitude to become a teacher. If they have, you guide them towards that area, guide them and sort of mentor them. So I think that kind of a system will have to be established in every school, either at undergraduate level, but much more so at postgraduate level. The mentorship between seniors and juniors, between the making students, postgraduate students, maybe teaching assistants also. As a part
paradox, Jamini sir. The paradox that we are living in is that you need a B.Ed.
Virendra,
I remember you as my mentor. Jamini.
Yeah.
I remember you as my mentor. You and Ekbotin.
Thank you. Anyway, yeah. Habib,
See,
go
the
ahead.
paradox that we are living in is to teach a primary school student, or to teach in primary school, you need a B.Ed.
Yeah.
But to teach a higher education, you need no qualification.
Yes.
So this has to be put right. I mean, this is unfair to our students who are joining our course.
So
we need to have qualified teachers.
So here
with
it
that
comes
aptitude.
So here basically to know and to teach are the two different ball games. So knowledge with teaching aptitude is important if you want to get into academia. Yes, Kadam, you are trying to ask something.
This is other. So because you get good salary as a teacher, you join teaching. I mean, honestly, that is the profession doesn't pay you that much as academia pays you.
That is a very big dilemma.
I mean, none of you probably or none of us would want to answer that, but I mean,
Yes,
reality
sir.
can't change.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Sir, Habib sir and Jamini sir, thank you very much for this interaction. It was a very productive and a very, good perspective of what education is going on. I would like to add and ask something about students and the education for the students. What is the perspective in reference with the students? What is, as Jamini sir told, that Britishers brought architecture in India and it has not been changed since. So what is the vision for changing the education, what we are doing for 5 years course? Is there any perspective in which the education, what we are getting, the subjects, what we are doing are going to change with the dynamics of everything which has, developed in with time, the different, as you said that we have a more wide spectrum of consultants and maybe which needs to be addressed. So the education which is going on for so many years, is there any prospect in which that education semesters in which the subjects would be changed or some?
It is still there. It is still there. If you see, it is still there. It is up to the institution or the university to be a little more innovative and little more forthcoming to give that flexibility. If you read even the minimum standards now, it is still there.
Quite a good number of subjects are there.
Yeah, it's a lot. You can have flexibility. You can, it's almost like the American system, if I'm not wrong. It is the American system of credit-based, choice-based credit systems where you have inputs. Every subject has a certain weightage, certain credit, and then you can take so many credits for this level, so many credits for that level. Similar to what CEPT is also doing, I believe in Ahmedabad. And it's just a very flexible and a very interesting system where you have a holistic development of a student rather than a very confined development of a student as an architect.
Yeah. So with the education of 5 years course, we get different semesters, and the entire 10 semesters, mostly it is a common practice that the final year, the thesis, the dissertation batch either does the thesis after the professional practice, the training period, or it does beforehand only. So that
no, you
training,
go through the new regulations. You have to do it after the training.
Yes.
Yes. So if it is the only time in which the student is interacting with an office, and if it is in the last stage also, but that part is the only part in which that student is actually interacting with a practicing architect. What if that student is from the third year itself is has some projects with a group project or something in which they have to work out a project with an MEP consultant with a live project going on, and some kind of that kind of project is also incorporate like the professional practice in the last semester which we have. So different structural engineers, MEP consultants, some kind of other practical knowledge which comes beforehand from the third year as well, because first and second year he will orient himself, and after that whatever he does is his choice of vision in which he will practice as a professional, as a structural engineer, as an MEP consultant. All such practices, if they can be addressed beforehand, just not at the last stage of his time period in which he has to go and have a single office training in which he will get
No,
influenced.
I understood what you're saying.
I think
Yes, what that is.
the problem, you have raised a very interesting problem, and I think it needs to be looked at. But again, that will happen. And I think there are already signs that it is happening in some part of this country. But in order for that to happen, you have to actually make sure that the entire student body is not a monolithic body. Right now, if you have 40 students, we treat them all as equal and give them all an equal kind of education, equal schedule, etc. We don't realize that our students come from various backgrounds. Some are completely rural background or urban. Some have another economic strata than the others. Some have better comprehension facility than the others. And once you know that somebody wants to be a professional architect with a capital A, he will require certain kind of training as opposed to somebody who wants to be either an associate or assistant in an office all his life, or somebody wants to be a critic of architecture. All these should be able to happen at an undergraduate level right from third year, fourth year onward.
Yes.
There's no question. Our education is not student centric. It is institution centric. It is based to look after the facility, the convenience of the institution rather than the students. And I think what you raise is also a long-term thing. Right now, it's not going to happen overnight, but it can happen. It can happen if we realize that students need some kind of a freedom to explore. Even at the fourth year level, instead of being taught structural engineering in the school, which we teach about the frame structures or steel structures, etc. Let him go and talk to a structural engineer as a consultant and say, I have this project. I want to do this. Can you advise me how to go about it?
Yes.
Those kind of things should be possible in schools.
But I remember no one stopping it. No one stopping that.
Nobody's stopping it.
Remember,
Nobody's
I
stopping
was a student,
it.
I was working.
Schools themselves have to organize them.
Yeah,
Nobody's stopping
I
it.
was, as a
They have
student, I
to
was
learn to
working
cope up.
right from first year onwards after the college was over in some architect's office for 2-3 hours. So, I mean, no one's stopping you from doing that right now. But I mean, carrying what Jaimini sir just said, I mean, look at the way and look at the diversity of the students that we get. Apart from, rural or urban background, we get from different communities. Every community has their aesthetic sense. Marwadis, Gujaratis, Punjabis, South Indians, everyone has their own aesthetic sense, and we try to teach them basic and visual design principles. This is right, this is wrong. I mean, everyone's perception is different. That's how shallow our education system is at the moment, and we need to address it. Coming to the practical training, I very feel that it's a big eyewash and it's a big scam that is happening in our institutions. It is the responsibility. Is it not the responsibility of the institute to make them market ready, make your student market ready? Why should you transfer the responsibility of training practically, professionally to someone else? I mean, look at what happens to the trainees when they go to offices abroad, offices outside your institute. It's not necessary that the training happens the way it should happen. Only a handful of offices train the way the student should be trained. Otherwise, they are left to do menial jobs. We receive hundreds of complaints every day in the council where these trainees are being exploited. They are being asked to run around, do photocopying, chai pilao, or ye karo, meeting arrange karo, Photoshop karo. I mean, this is not the kind of training that we expect that to happen, and that is our responsibility as teachers, as academia, that we should have actually taught them that they are market ready. See, pardon me for comparing this with a product, but you can sell a product in the market if it is market ready, if it is demanded by the market. You cannot make a product which is not bought by anyone else. Similar, if you apply this analogy here, you will find that we are not making a product which is market ready. Sorry, I'm calling my students a product, but this I'm trying to give you an example. We have to make them market ready, where they're accepted by the market, by the practicing architect and by the professionals. We are not doing that. So, and practical training is a very fine example where we are shirking away the responsibility on someone else. कि भाई ठीक है हम आपको भेज रहे हैं आपकी तरफ में. Practical training in the market is okay for for some time to get them exposed like the marketing courses do, MBAs do. But we are actually shirking responsibility for a full semester, for 2 semesters. This is not done. It is our responsibility. I'm sorry, but this is our responsibility to do it.
Sir, here I'll add up to what we are basically adapting as a pedagogy at our college is that this Transiting Thursday is acting as a vehicle where we are literally inviting all the professionals from different backgrounds. Even during our studios also, the professionals come, and even they are during the thesis also, when these students were there, they are professionals who are coming even at a regular interval to evaluate them, to guide them. They are sent to the professionals in the market to take an extra guidance on over and above what they are being taught. So what we are talking about being market prepared, Yes, that is the focus we are taking care of when we are here at APID. That is one of the goal we are trying to achieve. One of the goal, not holistically, but yes, research and applied research should go hand in hand is what we are trying to achieve over here. So this Transitioning Thursday is one of the vehicle among all the efforts which we are doing.
Great.
I think I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, sir.
No, I have another meeting. I have another meeting at
Thank
3, and
you.
before that, I have to grab my lunch. So
Yes, sir. I'll invite our like design chair and also management person Rahul Patel to just give a vote of thanks. Rahul sir, please.
Yes. Good afternoon to all. Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I deem a great honor to privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorial occasion in the 40 years old history of our school. APID was established by my father, late architect Suryakant Patel, along with architect Rasik Shah, with the vision. Nature is said to be the mother of all creative intelligence. Therefore, an architect, there is no other teacher than nature. I co-remember this occasion with the event organized by my team when Mr. Padma Bhushan B.V. Doshi sir graced us his presence and interacted with our student during the Suryakant Patel Memorial Lecture. After that, this interaction, Mr. Habeeb Khan sir and Mr. Jaimini Mehta sir would be considered a never forgot event in APID history. I would like to thank Mr. Habeeb Khan sir personally and on behalf of entire APID students, staff, faculty to find time out of the busy schedule, and also Mr. Jaimini Mehta sir to grace us with his presence. I would take an opportunity to thank you all, especially our guest spoken on behalf of entire Parisar Trust of APID, Charodha Vidya Mandal, as well as Sardar Patel University. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you.
thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
a lot.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we free now to go?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
It was wonderful, very stimulating,
Jamini,
and I enjoyed it.
Jamini, nice to see you. Jamini, nice
Thank
to
you,
see
sir,
you.
again. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Jamini,